Tim Clark, Red Dog Outfitters here. Thanks for watching the previous video. If you didn't, you might want to swing back and watch part one where we hang up the deer and try to get them unzipped from the ribs down to the base of the neck. But this video, we're going to go ahead and finish caping out the head in as much detail as we can. Again, we're not taxidermists. We're just giving you the best advice that we can show you with the tools that we have available.
Okay, so this is the best way I know how to finish a dorsal cut, is just to stab them right between the ears, or between the horns. And we're gonna do a Y cut from here down to here. So we're gonna start this point right here, pierce the skin, and then just drag it back to you to match into your dorsal cut there, see? And that gives us a point where we can start skinning back the ears, which is very important right now because there's so much stuff in a small little spot. So one thing too, you want to try to keep the blade and don't cut across the hair that's laying down. Try to get it right underneath the cusp of that button and is in between as many hairs as possible before you puncture, like that. And you don't want to pry with a Havilon, but you can leverage with one like that, see? See how that's opening that right up? Now we got our first Y cut. On this side we'll do the same thing. So we're gonna part the hair a little bit so we don't cut down and chop it off and give it a haircut. We're gonna take our tip of our blade and go right underneath the button, puncture, and then roll the blade backwards. Move yourself out of the way so you can not rip yourself apart. And now we got a full Y cut, see? So every little inch you can get on these. A lot of times it's better just to dull blades and just make sure you're pulling, just like when you're skinning a deer. Come against the skull and against the button here, see? This is where it starts getting real tricky, but it also is very satisfying because if you're cutting up against the button, it usually comes off pretty damn clean. And you can gain ground on the skull cap, see? I'll try doing this side too, just to give us a little more room to work. Once we have room to work, this becomes a whole hell of a lot easier. There, see that, how easy that came out there? Just making the little cuts. And yeah, you burn through a Havilon blade a lot quicker doing it this way, but we're also getting clean cuts and haven't had one mistake yet. Okay, so now, the way I learned is to grab the whole ear like this and grab the cartilage that's in there and then run your blade down the side of the head, okay? Cut the meat and you'll see the ear canal come open there. If you go too far, you'll just hit bone and it won't be a big deal. But you want to get the whole ear if you can. And the best way to do that is to feel it, like grabbing it like that. And then you can continue to skin underneath now that his ear's off. See his ear hole stuff's all right there. His whole ear's disconnected. And again, just running up against the underneath of the button and pulling away. Okay, once you start feeling the orbital bone around the eye, then you gotta start thinking about the next step. But let's get the rest of this from underneath the cap first. Make sure your fingers are clear. Again, we're going to dig under. There's a good 1/4 inch, 3/8 of an inch under there of hide. You see there? There's very little hair stuck on the underneath the base of the antler. And now we're getting down to the nitty-gritty. The harder stuff, but nitty-gritty nonetheless. Go ahead and do the ear now. You feel the back of the head, grab the ear, cut too much meat until you feel the skull, and then start pulling away. So now comes the face, the mouth anyway. See how the eyes are getting saggy here and you can kind of see through? We're gonna use it as a handle here in a minute. So I learned if you pull the lip back like so, cut it right about there, be right above the cartilage, but keep that secondary line of like that rough lip looking stuff inside the cut zone. So if they need it, they got it. And you'll be going through some cartilage right here too. But this skin's super, super thin in here. We're against the, what would be like the European, just the bone. There's really nothing here at all besides cartilage and bone. The bottom lip, same thing. I'll pull the lip down. So go right about here. Start to path the skin and the lip off. And this is super important to stay against the bone here. Don't worry about your blade anymore. You don't want to pop a hole in his chin. Get this cartilage to let go. It'll help us skin it up a little bit. That way when we come back down his face, we'll just be done. You know what I mean? Especially right here against the teeth. All right, now we're gonna go nose down, if we can. I'm gonna stick my finger in his eye. Then you can see where you can feel where your finger's at there when you got your finger in the corner of his eye like that, okay? And that's gonna help us guide without cutting ourselves. My finger's right there. Okay, again, finger in the eye socket, or in the eye hole. And then you can just pull down and cut right against the, I guess it would be the orbital bone, right? But once we get the skin coming off of the eye, then we got to get deep down in the tear duct. And on whitetail, it isn't nearly as bad as it is like on a muley or an elk. They get super deep. But you want to push your blade right down here as you're pulling. See all that tendon right there? Okay, we're getting there. See there how the corner is? Just stay against the bone and keep pulling. We can get the other eye and then we'll be done. So I'm putting my finger back in this eye here as a handle so I can pull this tear duct back. And again, there's a cartilage right there. You stay on this side of it, or on that side of it. Just carve against the bone there until you feel that. You'll see the tear duct when it pops free. It's real easy to tell. All right, so we got a fresh blade on now. We'll see how much difference that makes. My guess is probably a fair amount. You see that little bulge right there is the tear duct we just needed to let go from down under there. There we go, got it. Yeah, it comes right off. Yeah, so put on a sharp knife. If you're running dull around the tear duct, do yourself a favor and just put a new blade on it. I changed bodies of my knife because that one still got some guts to it. With cutting steaks or whatever, it'll do fine. It just isn't doing the trick around the tear ducts at all. And since we already did the lips, all we gotta do is skin against the bone until we find our cut that came from the mouth side or the nose side. And they should meet together and we'll be done. Right about here, we start meeting the inside of the gums. You see in teeth, there's the tooth. This guy did not go to the dentist often. Look at that decay. He didn't even brush. I know. Fucking deer, man. I think because they got a pretty coat, they don't have to take care of their oral hygiene. Yeah. Essentially, that's why they end up getting shot and why they end up looking for girls for so long. Because who's going to kiss that guy? Not going to happen. Maybe in the dark. Just praying for a full moon, a late night rendezvous. Don't look me in the eyes. All right, see that jawbone coming out there where we already made our cuts? See there how you can get through, and you got both sides. Where we started, all we got to do is go gently separate that. Keep on the bone side, because remember that nose is really fucking touchy. And we're done. Just to get the exposed meat, especially if it's going right in the freezer or going to the taxidermist quick. I'm sure a lot of people want you to put borax on them and prepare them. I never do, and no one's ever told me I did it wrong, so. But I also don't waste a lot of time getting them in. Just kind of fold it into itself like that. And then it's ready for a bag.